everyone, so today's video is going to be the Finally Fall book tag. Now before I get into that tag, I do just want to say that I tried something different with my makeup today. So if you notice like a black spot like underneath my eyeliner, that's like a little star, but I don't think it's very visible on camera that it's a star. I think it just looks like a black dot, but yeah, I tried something different. It probably looks horrible, but yeah, I wanted to try something different, like I already said. So yeah, now let's actually get into the tag, because I am in a lot of pain today. I've been going through a pain flare in the last couple days, and I do still need to film videos. So yeah, I'm just gonna push through it and film 2 videos today. This is the first one, so let's just get into it so I still have energy to film the second video right after this. So all of these questions are quite long, so I will probably be reading all of them off of the notebook that I write all of my video ideas in. So if you notice a lot of editing in this video, especially during the part where I say the questions, it's because I'm editing out the part where I'm reading it off the paper. So yeah, just bear with me through this video. I know it's going to be a bit annoying, but I have no other way of doing it because my memory isn't that good today. So yeah. So the first question is, in fall the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. Now for this question I chose Watch Over Me. I also chose A Monster Calls, but I feel like I've mentioned that book way too much, especially in videos like this. So yeah, I'm not gonna pick that one. I'm gonna pick this one instead. This is a book that I actually didn't enjoy as much as I wanted to. It doesn't have any sticky notes in it, despite me having sticky notes ready when I was reading it. I just didn't tab anything because I didn't feel like anything should be tabbed. It was still a pretty good book and I liked it, but nothing just stood out to me to be tabbed. So yeah, this does have a very vivid setting. I really like that about it, even though I read this quite a while ago. I can't remember when. I think about a year ago. I still remember exactly what this setting is supposed to look like. And yeah, I guess that's the definition of a vivid setting. So yeah, let's just get into the next question, I guess, because again, I need to go through these questions quite fast. So yeah, then the next question is, nature is beautiful but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written but also deals with a heavy topic like grief or loss. For this question I chose Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I really enjoyed this book. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it when I read it. I was expecting to like it, but not like it as much as I did. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I tabbed a lot of stuff. And again, it's very beautifully written, like the question says, but it deals with heavy topics and it made me cry multiple times. And yeah, I really want to read the other books in this series, because there's 2 of them, I'm pretty sure, but they are quite expensive where I live, so I can't really get them very easily, sadly enough. So yeah, very beautifully written, but deals with very heavy topics, makes you cry a lot. I do recommend it though, because of all of those reasons. So yeah, the next question is, fall is back to school season. Share a non-fiction that taught you something new. For this question I chose Disfigured. Now if you've seen any of my recent videos, if I've posted them already at this point, where I talk about this book and what I think of it, you'll know that I learned a lot of new things from this book, especially because this book talks about disability and the way that it's portrayed in fairy tales. And I didn't really grow up on fairy tales. My parents just never read them to me. I don't know why, but they just never did. And yeah, I didn't know a lot about fairy tales, so I didn't really grow up with that specific idea that fairy tales give about disability. I obviously grew up being ableist because my parents were very ableist, and it's very interesting that they are that ableist with me as their daughter. But yeah, anyway, point being, obviously I learned a lot of new things from this book because I didn't grow up on fairy tales, and so reading about all of these ableist elements in fairy tales was very interesting. As you can tell by the amount of tabs that are in this book, it's a lot. It's probably a bit too much, but yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I learned a lot from it. I already talked about it quite a lot in like a wrap up that I did recently, and I will probably talk about it more in like my best books of like 2022 video. So yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about it now because I will talk about it more in the future. So yeah, I highly recommend it if you want like a very informative book about, again, the way that disability is portrayed in fairy tales and how it's often seen as like a punishment for bad people, and how that gives a lot of like children the idea that like every single disabled person that they see did something bad to be disabled. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It's very informative. I learned a lot of new things from it. Let's move on. Then the next question is, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people that you love. Name a fictional character or a friend group that you would like to be a part of. Now again, I'm really sorry for how stilted those questions sound, but I can't remember a lot of things today, especially when I read them. Like, talking is actually going quite well today, just like talking straight out of my head, kind of. Like, that's actually working pretty well today. But just remembering things that I read is just not working today, so I'm sorry that those questions sound so stilted and so edited. I can't help it. But yeah, the book, or better yet, the manga series that I chose to answer this question is Haikyuu. Now, like the question already said, I really want to be a part of this friend group because it seems really interesting, despite the fact that I would never be able to play volleyball, and going to their matches would probably be a really bad idea because my body doesn't deal well with that kind of environment. But I still feel like I want to be a part of that friend group, but probably when they're a bit older, because in this series they're all like teenagers and I'm not a teenager, so me hanging out with like a bunch of teenage boys is probably going to be weird. So maybe when they're a bit older. So yeah, they seem like a very fun like friend group. That's why I chose them for this question, also because I couldn't think of anything else. So yeah, the next question is, the colorful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a pile of fall colored spines. Now for this question, I didn't actually pick up like a pile of fall colored spines because I can't physically pick up that many books. Holding up one book already causes me enough pain. I don't want to cause myself even more pain. So I'm just gonna hold up one book, and that book is 1,000 Perfect Notes. Now this book, I would say, does have like a fall colored spine. I don't know if this classifies as a fall color, but I feel like dark red is a fall color to me. So yeah, I don't know if this counts, but to me it does. But yeah, I actually really like this book. It's a book that's very heavy to read because it deals with very heavy topics like child abuse and stuff like that. So it's very difficult to read, but it is worth it in my opinion. And yeah, I personally really enjoyed it. I'm not going to say any more about it just because I don't have the energy. So yeah, let's just move on to the next question. The next question is, fall is the perfect time for some storytelling. By the fireside, share a book wherein someone is telling a story. For that question, I chose All Boys Are in Blue. Now this is basically just like a memoir, so it is someone telling a story. I didn't know what else to like answer for this question other than just like picking a memoir that I've read. So yeah, I really enjoyed this memoir. It is very well written. It's very like easy to read as well, which I feel like some memoirs are very difficult to get through because they're memoirs. And yeah, this is one of those very easy to read memoirs. It still deals with very like heavy topics, but it is very easy to read. It has a lot of like good things in it, obviously, like a lot of good quotes because of the amount of tabs that are in this book. And yeah, I really enjoyed this book despite it being a memoir, and the cover is also really pretty as well. So yeah, I highly recommend it as like an easy to read memoir. And let's just get into the next question. The nights are getting darker. Share a dark and creepy read. Now for this question, I actually picked two things. One of them is a manga, one of them is a book, because I know that a lot of people don't really like mangas. So if I just mention a manga, I feel like people are gonna feel like it's a cop-out. So yeah, I'm gonna say the book first, and that is Hell Followed With Us. I don't actually have a physical copy of it. I never actually fully finished reading this book, but I definitely know that it's a very dark and creepy read. It has a lot of like body gore in it, and It's very scary at times, from what I read of it, obviously. But yeah, I do highly recommend it. It has a lot of representation, including autism representation and trans representation and a lot of other like LGBT plus representation. So yeah, I do highly recommend it. And then for the manga that I picked for this question, because this was like the first book or manga that I thought of when I saw this question, was Blood on the Tracks. Like I said, this is a manga series. I haven't fully finished reading it because it scared me too much. Like I remember at what page that I stopped because it just scared me too much, which is very interesting because I don't really get scared by mangas very often. But yeah, there's just a very specific type of like drawings that I really don't like, and they really like unnerve me. And that happened a lot in this series, or at least the, I don't know, like 7-ish mangas that I read of this series. And yeah, like the last page that I read of this manga, it was just too much for me. I just couldn't handle it. And so I stopped reading it and I was like, I'll continue this later, and then I just never did. And I don't know if I'm ever gonna continue reading it because people are talking about how this manga has a very like sad ending almost, or well, not necessarily sad, but people are saying that like the ending is looking very like unsatisfying and very like disappointing almost. So yeah, I'm gonna see what other people say about the series, but if people read the actual ending and say that it's actually good, then I'm gonna continue reading it. But otherwise I am gonna stop where I stopped last time because again, it was just too much for me and I don't want to like subject myself to that. So yeah, I do highly recommend it if you're into like very like scary, unnerving like mangas, because it's not necessarily like a horror manga, it's more like a thriller-ish manga. It's just very unnerving in the way that some things are drawn. So yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about it now because the image of like the last thing that I read of this manga is just like seared into my brain and I want to stop thinking about it now. So yeah, if you're into like scary mangas, here's a recommendation, I guess. So yeah. Then the next question is, the days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm somebody up on a cold and rainy day. For this question, once again, I picked a book and a manga because again, I know not everyone is interested in mangas, and the first thing that came to my head was once again a manga. And I'm gonna start with the book again, and that book is Melissa, and then the book that kind of is like a companion to it, Rick. First of all, I'm going to talk about Melissa because I feel like that's the book that most people know about. It's like a very cute like middle grade book. It's not that long, it's only like 200 pages I think, and yeah, it has like trans representation. It's quite good. The author changed the title to be like the correct name, and I like it a lot more like that. Rick is kind of like the follow-up, like I already said, like a companion book that has ace representation and a lot of other like LGBT plus stuff representation, because Melissa is also in this book, the main character from the other book. So yeah, I highly recommend it for like a short middle grade like read. Then the manga that I wrote down, which was again the first thing that I thought of, was My Roommate is a Cat. Now this is all about like a guy who finds like a cat and takes it in and cares for it, and he's never owned a cat so he doesn't know how to do it, and you basically follow like his perspective at the beginning of a chapter, and then at the end of the chapter you follow the cat's perspective for like what happened during like the day or the week that the chapter follows. And it's really cute and adorable. It's also quite sad. It also has an anime if people like that more. If you're not like a manga reader, there is like an anime for it. It only has one season. I think it has about 12 episodes, so it's not even that long. And again, it does have cats in it, so it's very cute. Again, it will also make you cry because there are some like very sad episodes. So yeah, it is mostly quite short and like heartwarming to read, but also a bit sad. So yeah, then we are finally at the last question, and that is, fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you would like to return to soon. Now for this question, my answer obviously has to be the Six of Crows duology, this has been like the main inspiration for my channel basically, and I only read this once like a couple years ago, and I wasn't even tabbing my books back then. Yeah, I really want to read this again. Hopefully I still like it. I'm not really a big fantasy person, so it's very interesting that me, someone who doesn't really read fantasy, one of my favorite series of all time is a fantasy series, so that's a bit interesting. But yeah, I do really want to reread this. Hopefully I still like it. The reason why I haven't reread it, even though I really want to, is because, again, I'm quite scared of not liking it anymore, and then I will have to like change the entire name of my channel. So yeah, I hope I still like it when I do eventually reread it. I want to read it again next year, hopefully. So yeah, hopefully I managed to actually do that. And yeah, that was the last question of this tag. So like I just said, that was the last question of this tag. Again, I'm really sorry for how like edited those questions are gonna sound. I just couldn't remember any of them, and towards like the end it got even worse and I had to do like a couple words at a time. I'm really sorry about that. I hope it's not too noticeable in the editing, but it probably will be. I'm really sorry for that. I know because of that a lot of people are not gonna watch till the end, because it will be very difficult to listen to probably. So yeah, if you're still watching at this point, I really appreciate it. I know it was very difficult to get through. I couldn't do anything about it. I just have days like this where my brain just doesn't want to remember anything. So yeah, I really appreciate it if you're still watching. That's all I gotta say basically for this video, because I do, again, still have to film another video after this. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and for sticking true to this entire video, and bye.